Toronto Blue Jays general manager Ross Atkins has spoken out on Alek Manoah following his recent struggles at the Florida Complex League, and he also hinted that a potential trade may be coming. So we're going to break that down and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? Nick Goss here, host of Jays Digest, and before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7,500 subscribers. Your support's been unbelievable, and it means the world to me and Peter will be back in the next video. We have a lot to break down today. Ross Atkins went to the media yesterday. He went on a couple of shows, the Blair and Barker Show and a couple others, and he had a lot to say about the Blue Jays' current situation, about what's to come, as well as Alek Manoah. So let's start with the potential trade talks that may be coming for both the deadline and maybe in the more immediate future. So let's just get right into it. Blue Jays general manager Ross Atkins on trade deadline priorities. Quote, "The obvious area would be adding a starting pitcher. We need to balance that with the progress of Alek Manoah and Hyun-Jin Ryu." Now, he's of course talking about the fact that Alek Manoah and Hyun-Jin Ryu are both out of the rotation, out of the roster. Hyun-Jin Ryu is coming back from an injury soon. He has a bit of an update as well that we can discuss later. And of course, Alek Manoah had a horrible start at the Florida Complex League. You guys all know the story about Alek Manoah. He's not going to be pitching for the Blue Jays anytime soon. And as a result, Ross Atkins acknowledges the fact that the Blue Jays need to add a starting pitcher. Now, this is, of course, could come in various ways. It could come internally, it could come from the trade market, or it could also come from, somewhere else. However, Keegan Matheson said, in terms of things with some actual substance, the Blue Jays' Ross Atkins said that staying in a four-man rotation with a bullpen day is, quote, not the goal. That would be not ideal. I think we can get through another turn or two feeling okay. So this means that a trade is most likely coming within the next, say, 10 to 15 days, or at the very least, a signing of some sort is coming. Of course, Zach Plesac is out there available. He could be a potential option. There's also a couple other guys that are potential options for starting rotations. Of course, Chris Flexen got DFA'd by the Mariners a few days ago, so he's maybe a potential option. But you'd like to think that the Jays are very, very active, and it seems from what Ross Atkins is saying that they're very, very active in the starting pitcher trade market, especially because of what's happened to Alek Manoah specifically. And we cannot really rely on Hyun-Jin Ryu to come back and be a serviceable starter. He's, 35 plus years of age. He's coming off Tommy John surgery. This is the last year of his contract. Do I think he'll have some sort of impact for the Jays this year? Absolutely. I think it's very, very likely that he does. However, I don't think that it's going to be something that the Blue Jays can necessarily rely on and, hope for going forward. They can hope, but I don't think it's going to happen. So this was kind of the big quote here, is that another turn or two feeling okay with the bullpen rotation. And this was, of course, yesterday prior to the game where Trevor Richards and Bowden Francis combined for 7 innings of, I believe, 3-hit, 1-run ball. They did phenomenal. Trevor Richards has been one of the best players, the most valuable players of Blue Jays have had the entire season. His ERA is now down to like a 3.24 or 3.34 or 3.36 or something really, really low like that. And Trevor Richards has been dominant in that opener spot. However, it's not sustainable for the rest of the bullpen, and I'm sure many Jays fans can agree that we'd much rather have Trevor Richards as a potential option later in the game, say the 7th inning, the 6th inning, maybe even the 8th inning, depending on the rest of Eric Swanson, rather than having to burn him every 5 days as a starter, or at least an opener, going 3 to 4 innings. And usually his cap right now is 3 innings and however many pitches, 50 to 60. So I would like to see a trade coming. It seems like Ross Atkins is saying that a trade is brewing and that a trade is coming. Whether that is within the next couple of weeks, like maybe he's hinting to here, or at the trade deadline, we can definitely expect a trade is coming for a starting pitcher, which is very, very good news. And Thomas Hall, like to said here, a back-end starting pitcher plus a right-handed bat and another high-leverage reliever to a lesser degree should be the top priorities. Following up on Scott Mitchell's kind of tweet saying that he mentions a starting pitcher as a priority at the deadline and they have to balance. So, of course, there's other things we'll talk about as the deadline approaches. We would love a right-handed hitting outfielding bat. Tommy Pham is a guy that comes to mind off the top of my head. We've just Jorge Soler is another one. Who knows if they're going to trade, but very, very impressive quotes out of Ross Atkins. We just got to hope that he's going to live up to that and make some of the moves that we know that the Blue Jays, need to make, especially when it comes to a starting pitcher, because these bullpen days aren't going to fix themselves. They need to make a move sooner than later, and I don't think you can hold out until Hyun-Jin Ryu comes back, because who knows how good he'll actually be, and hopefully, he doesn't have any setbacks or anything like that. But moving on now to Alek Manoah, which is very, very interesting. Before we do, of course, Ross Atkins had a quick quote about how they are in general, and this kind of relates to Manoah as well. Ross Atkins, with all optimism, says they're in a solid position 80 games in. We're very much in the wild card hunt, and I feel very good about the potential of this team playing even better. Now, Interesting quote. Do I agree necessarily? I don't really, I don't think we're in a great spot. I don't think we're in a bad spot. And a lot of that is because of the injuries to teams like the New York Yankees and, the other teams in the wild card race, the Houston Astros as well. Are we in a playoff spot? Yes. Are we doing, okay? Yes. Do I think that they have a chance to make the playoffs? Absolutely. However, I wouldn't say I'd be super optimistic. However, we are in a fine spot, but this kind of relates to Alek Manoah. Then GM Ross Atkins said that he fully expects Alek Manoah to be back with the team before the end of the season. And this is kind of a bit of a bombshell because me and Peter have discussed about whether we think Alek Manoah will just take the rest of the season, to gather his, thoughts, to lock in some mechanics, or if they think he'll come back this season. We were kind of hoping that he comes back this season, but after that especially, horrible and horrid start in Florida Complex League, his results have been pretty putrid down there, so you'd expect that he would maybe stay down there a bit longer than expected, but it is good to know that he is definitely coming back before the end of the season, so that maybe, who knows what role that'll be in. Maybe it's a bulk role, maybe they throw him right back into the starting rotation and see how he does, but regardless, you can fully expect Alek Manoah to be back at some point this season, and I just suspect it'll be towards maybe August, September, depending on how he does, but who knows, maybe he could surprise everyone. What we do know is it won't be for Canada Day because they moved the bullpen day back yesterday. So that way, Yusei Kikuchi will pitch for Canada Day if everything lines up the way that it's looking to be lined up. So you don't have to worry about that aspect of it, but we did get a win in our bullpen game yesterday. So Manoah's going to be back. He's going to be back before the end of the season, unless, bearing any setbacks, and I assume that he needs to pitch a lot better than he has been right now in order to, get to a point where he can really, start producing for the Toronto Blue Jays, because he has been the biggest unfortunate story of the Jays so far, and one that the Blue Jays have been a relatively healthy team. There haven't been many major injuries to guys like George Springer, Kevin Gausman, any of our pitchers, and hopefully that, remains the case. But a couple of guys, specifically Alek Manoah, regressed to the point where we had to bring him down. So it almost acts like an injury without, of course, the lingering effects, which is good. But the Jays, it all kind of relates to, we need a starting pitcher, and we need one very, very soon, because Alek Manoah is not going to come up over the next 2 to 3 weeks to help, soften the bullpen load that is being put on them. And like Ross Atkins said himself, 10 or so, 2 more trips to the bullpen is about what he, wants. He doesn't want any more than that. So hopefully the Blue Jays can make a move by then and get back to having a 5-man rotation, because I, for one, really miss it, and I'm not a huge fan of these bullpen games because, like I've already said many times in previous videos, they not only are not the most effective strategy on the day of course, having the bullpen game is not the best option compared to the other starters, but as well as just the lingering effects it has going forward for the rest of the rotation and the rest of the bullpen. So hopefully Ross Atkins will make a move very, very soon and kind of put all these questions to rest. But one final quick note here is an update on fellow, another starting pitcher in Ricky Tiedemann, number 1 prospect. Fellow Ricky Tiedemann, bicep, will throw a live bullpen in the coming days. He last pitched May 4th, so it's been almost 2 months now, but should be on track to finish the season with a healthy stretch, which is very, very important. It's good that the injury wasn't too major, nothing crazy, no Tommy John or anything needed like that. And assuming he finishes the season strong, I don't think he'll come up to the Blue Jays this season because of this injury, but he could definitely be in the factor for that starting spot going into the the 2024 season. So that'll wrap up the video. Lots of stuff Ross Atkins talked about. There was tons of news, and the Blue Jays have a game tonight against the San Francisco Giants with a chance to win the series with Chris Bassett on the hill, who needs to bounce back. So hopefully he's able to do that, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.